so often people with diagnosed ADHD are really just gifted, especially boys. So my future plans, having kids wasn't in it. And even if it was, like, even if there's like, okay, like some sort of a chance, I wanted to be like 31, 33 before I had kids. I wanted to have my career established. I wanted to be done with school. I anticipated um, school taking about 12 years out of my life. And I didn't want to have kids while I was in school before I was really making money, like good money. 12 years out of my adult life for me. School after grade school, university. Yeah, that was my plan. So I thought, like, I'll be probably 31, 33 before, like, I'm making the money I want to make. Then, if kids happen, that's when they can happen. And most certainly wanting to be married. And have a house. And very minimal to no debt, which I can't remember. Maybe like in most of my adult life, I've had actually pretty much no debt. That stayed in the cards more or less. Even when I was pregnant, I had different plans then. It's like, okay, this is what I'll do now. And, that was before I truly met my son. And then it changed again because I didn't know I would be so in love. I didn't know until it came out that, I actually want to spend like most of my waking time, period. And I actually want to spend most of my time with this person. I really didn't anticipate that. I thought it would be almost the opposite. Like, I knew I wanted to spend time with my kids. I knew I wanted to homeschool. But I thought I would be okay with going back to work. Not the work I was doing. At a certain point, I knew I had to quit that job. But I thought, like, okay, I'll work from home and I'll start this business. And then, of course, there are roadblocks that you don't anticipate. And like, my son, he just, like, really just doesn't like to be alone, even as a baby. Like, I seen, like, other people, like, okay, you'll do, like, the swings and, like, rockers and bouncers and all that kind of jazzy, disconnected from an actual human stuff. Like, my son just wasn't having it. I thought, like, I never babysat, so let's start there. Like, technically never babysat. I didn't have any younger siblings. I didn't have to, like, watch cousins or so. I thought I knew, sort of, kind of, what babies were like. Like, I knew it's hard. I knew you miss out on sleep. But that I was prepared, right? The sleep, sort of. Pregnancy prepares you for that anyway. But I thought, like, he'd be okay if, like, he was in a pen, like a playpen, and, like, playing with little toys by himself. He was not. He was not okay with spending more than 2 minutes in a baby swing. He was not, like, he just wanted to be on the move, and he wanted to be with me. And he's still that way. So I was like, oh, okay. This makes it really difficult to work from home. Like, I thought, and my son was born during the pandemic, so, like, I was working from home while I was pregnant anyway. But working from home while I was pregnant, like my job required you to talk a lot on phones. And I know people went through it, and like they had babies in the background and dogs, and people were like, "Oh, I understand. Yeah, everybody's working from home," but like that comes to an end. And I'm very introverted, so and easily overstimulated. So like trying to talk to someone on the phone while my baby is like making noise in the background, like sends me like internally. Like I have a hard time managing social with anything else. It doesn't matter what it is. Like unless I'm pacing, I don't like walk and talk. I struggle to. I can do this. I can drive and talk, but even you know. But I'm not having an actual conversation with someone else. Also, if I sit and I drive, people ride with me. And I'm driving. It throws me off a lot. I most people don't know that I do not like to drive with other people in the car. Besides my son, I'm used to it. But yeah, people like visit me, come over to my house or my car. I'm visiting other people at their house, especially if I'm in other people's homes with my son. That is extremely difficult for me. Or when I go out with my son. When my son was first born, I refused to go to the store by myself. I think until he was around 2, maybe mid-late 1 or 2, I don't know. But definitely for the first year he was born, I refused to go to the grocery store by myself. I had food delivered, or I would wait. I live with my mom, so I would wait until he'd sleep for the night, and then I would go to the store when I knew he was going to be sleeping for several hours straight. Or I would just have food delivered. So like I spent a lot of money getting food delivered. Navigating life for me in a social sense since having my son and having to go most places with him, has been difficult for me because I'm an INTJ, and for me, I prefer. Yeah, here we go. Well, that looks better. I'm an INTJ, right? So, as far as on the Myers-Briggs personality test, we never heard of that. Should check it out. But so me, when I go out, I rather like disappear into the abyss. Like I rather people not notice me. For the most part, sort of. Like I just like to observe. I like to kind of take the back seat and to interject when I feel like I need to, which is I usually don't, even if I may want to interject about something. But I definitely like observing other people because I mean, honestly, you can tell so much about people just by watching them, especially like watching them interact with other people. You can get like a good idea. I'm not gonna say it's always accurate or anything, but you can get like a strong inkling by watching other people interact with other people. Even if they're a person who like is like high masking, I don't want to park in the sun. Let's go around. And yeah, that's how I do most of my reading of people. But when you have a child, especially a very young child like mine is, you're kind of forced to talk. Like people want to talk to you about your kid, or like your kid goes and interacts with someone, and then you're like forced to talk to them, and you're like, oh my god. And then like I've been working on myself, right? Trying to socialize more, trying not to be so darn socially awkward. And, for my son's sake, for myself as well, I've been working on it, trying to get better at it by interacting more and forcing myself into like small talk. And I'm like a newborn baby deer, newborn fawn trying to like walk, doing it. Yeah, man, so being an introvert and having kids, especially if you're like highly introverted like I am, but it's a struggle. It's hard because you need a lot of time to recharge. And you don't get that anymore. I mean, not if you're a parent who gives a darn. Like, no, you don't get it anymore. Yeah, it's rough. It's frustrating sometimes. Um, when you recharge by being alone. So I haven't felt myself since I was pregnant. My son's like going on 5 now. He's like 4.5. 4.5 years of not feeling like myself. Um, it's rough. I know that all this is good. Like, all this is for a reason. I know that it's helping me become a better person. It's helping me become more skillful in a lot of things I wasn't skillful in. And, people on the outside looking in, they're like, you need to do this, you need to do that. What are you doing? We're like, everybody else is doing it. Everybody else is figuring it out. When in reality, they aren't. Most large number of people aren't figuring it out. Or they don't have it figured out, rather. I definitely believe I deserve this life. I chose this life to some extent, you know. Definitely, there were choices involved, absolutely. There were also things out of my control, absolutely. Like, that's life. Um, I do think this is the life I deserve, and I think that this is what's meant to happen, and I think that this is the life that I need. Despite all of that, sometimes it's difficult not to break. If I didn't have my son, I'd be failing at this, like, massively. I know a lot of people would say I'm failing already. I know I'm not. They don't know the behind the scenes type of thing. And if I didn't have my son, I would be failing at this. I would go back to my old coping mechanisms for things because, one, it would be easier to, and two, honestly, for me, this has been for me, is having a child, like, kind of, it keeps me accountable. Because out of any person in the whole entire world, I care what that person thinks about me. And I care what that person thinks about what I'm doing. Um, Not to the extent that, oh, I'm making choices that I think he wants from me. Like, no. I'm trying to model the parent I want him to have, and I'm also trying to model the type of wife I would want him to choose. So, do I want her to talk down to him or speak kindly to him? Like, right? So I'm going to speak kindly to him in the way that I would hope if he has a wife one day that she speaks to him. And I don't want to normalize belittling or, just frustration and chaos, right? It extends to more than that as far as accountability, right? Like, so sinning, right? I'm a Christian, so I'm going to be like, yeah, wait till I'm, sane until you're married. I'm not going to just tell them to do it. No, I don't do it. Like, what the heck? So, the large percentage of my style of parenting is leading by example. Monkey see, monkey do. Right? Monkey hear, monkey say. So that is like the bulk of my parenting, and like it takes some getting used to, but it also makes it where I don't have to talk as much, like about the things I am trying to instill in him, the lessons I'm trying to teach him. Right? It's a lot less. Like there's so much that my son repeats from me because that's what he hears, right? And it's good things. I don't have to tell him like say this. No, like I think he was like 1 or 2. And like I apparently I guess I was going through a phase of saying excuse me a lot, like, and we're going out and he's passing by people, excuse me. I never told him to say excuse me. I also would not tell him to say sorry, but he would say sorry because he heard me say sorry very early on. Now there's other people in the mix and other people are telling him to say sorry. Right? He goes to school, he has other family members, right? But me, I'm a more of a Montessori influenced parent. So if you're not familiar, that's one of the things. Like you don't really teach to say sorry. More so of like if someone's injured because you accidentally hurt him or maybe it was intentional. I don't know. You go check on him. You give him a pat back. Are you okay? Do you need an ice pack? Do you need a hug? What do you need? Instead of the oh sorry, and you change your behavior. I can hear sorry all day, but if you don't change, you don't work to change at least, right? You might have a habit, so you might not have the skills for something. You might not know what else to do yet, right? If I feel like you're putting in an effort, then all right. So that's a lot of how I parent is just by leading by example, and it saves me so much pain and heartache and time and strife and frustration. Not just me, him too. And then and thus I'm also not a hypocrite. Am I perfect at this? No. But most of what I do, it's things that I would want him to do or say. It's things I would want him to do and say. And I am really proud about that part of me when it comes to my parenting style. I didn't know I was going to do that though. Like, sort of, before I became a mother, because that just seemed sensible to me, right? So I sort of knew, but, I didn't get to do parenting classes or anything like that. I was signed up for some. They got shut down because of the pandemic. I was pregnant with my son. I think, like, everything went down. I think when everything went down, I was, like, 4 months pregnant, or I don't know, like, remember exactly. So a lot of all the stuff I was trying to get canceled. Thankfully, I was late enough that like I still got to have one person be with me, and that was my mom. But yeah, I wasn't in the group of people who didn't get to have anyone. How terrible. Yeah, so I can't go back to my old coping mechanisms. I could, right? But I'm not going to. I choose not to because I care about my son and the type of person I'm trying to portray. And the type of person I am, really. The type of person I am for him. So I am also a very attentive parent, responsive, attentive, present parent, and I knew I wanted to be present, but not as much as I am. And I also knew that was pretty much it. Actually, I didn't really plan on being so attentive, even since he's a newborn. I think some people would say it's excessive. I just worked to take care of his needs. Like, I didn't wait. If he had a need, I was there. That's just what my instincts told me to do. A lot of my parenting is based on my instincts. And it, honestly, the way I parent doesn't really fit with society. And I have moments of being proud of that, but I also know it's quite possible I could be setting my son up, like, because one day he's going to be going on to this world and having to interact and kind of work around all these societal norms and parameters. And like sometimes I'm like, dang, am I setting him up? But I also just, the things I want to teach him about life, I think are so different from what so many parents want to teach. But I see a lot of newer parents that are doing the same thing or very similar. I think so much in our society is just a bunch of distractions. Um, and so much of it's unmeaningful, honestly. I want to teach my son that if he wants to be a family man, like, I want to teach him how to do that and still provide financially for his family. Like, that's one thing I want. Like, it's up to him, right? He has choice, but at least you have the skills, like, like, there's a way. Because I went and I seeked it out for you, for us, not just for him, right? For me, too. It's not just him. I speak a lot about him in reference to him because he's my motivator. But he changed me so much. He changed my outlook on life, the things that matter. I saw like a video, like one of my favorite videos. It's like the beautiful things, they're all around us. It's the birds, it's the flowers, it's the bees, it's the grass under your feet. Like, it's the warm sun, it's the sunsets, the sunrise. Those things you take for granted because you gotta go to work, you gotta get up, you're rushing your kids to school, you're rushing yourself to work, you're rushing yourself to go get your kids at school, you're rushing to get them to dinner, you're rushing to get them in the bath, you're rushing to get them in the bed, you're doing it all over again. That's not a life I want. And it's not a life I'm going to teach my son to strive for. If he ends up doing it on his own, hey, that's all on him. But, what do I have? I gain the whole world and I lose myself, or I lose my relationship with the people who are important to me. Right now, my son, he's 4. I don't want to miss this. Like, it's so funny because people will be like, hold on, you're going to miss this, right? You're going to miss these moments when they're gone off, so hold on tight, don't take it for granted. But it's like, it's so funny, things like that. And the moment you try to actually apply it, people are like, what are you doing? You're basing your whole life on your kid. Well, maybe that's how you see it. Maybe because you're only looking at it from like one part of a globe, like one part of a sphere. You're not seeing on the other side. You're not seeing the motivators. You're not seeing how this is for me too. Like, because if it wasn't, I don't think I'd be doing it, right? So my son was born. It's like they give you 6 weeks. 6 weeks maternity leave. I was like, my 6-week-old. I'm not. Look, have you seen this guy? Like, you want me to hand him over to complete strangers? I don't know what their values are like. I don't know what their heart is like. I don't know if this person is actually a good person. Are they pretending? Then there's a whole another person. They're stressed out. Multiple kids they're dealing with. Then they got their own kids at home. You don't know if their mom died, their husband wants a divorce, or if they got good sleep that night, if they even like children. And my child can't walk, can't talk, probably can't even roll over good. I don't even remember when he started rolling over. But, and you want me to hand the thing I love most, aside from myself, on this earth, over to complete strangers? Absolutely not. Don't cast your pearls to swine. Can apply to many different things. So I thought about having a live-in nanny when my son's born, but that was what my intents were, right? But that was blocked. Couldn't do that. Wouldn't send him over to strangers, at least until he could walk. Then he was on the waiting list, pandemic. He was on the waiting list for multiple different schools for an entire year, never got in any of them. He finally got going to some when he was 2. That was a partial nightmare. The first school was a nightmare. Second school, it wasn't the school, but there was a person there who was abusive to child. Different, not my kid, but probably some things were happening because I noticed my son was changing, right? Not reportedly my kid, huh? It wasn't reported. Anything. Um, and doing that is like, it's so abnormal. Handing your kid over, your baby, after you just had it, to complete strangers, like, it's become a norm, but most of, like, since humans have been on Earth, that is not what happened. Like, for the most part, since humans have been around, keep your kid, more or less with you. Your child always had access to you. Like, you might have a village, a community, and there's grandma and, friends and uncles or whatever around, but your child still had access to you while you were doing other activities or whatnot, or you wore them, And here, Western world, there's so much disconnect, and that's what I don't want. I don't want a disconnect from my child, and I don't want him to have a disconnect from me. Every time I've sent my son to school, things got worse. Every time. But it's like, well, society says you should do it. What else are you going to do? You have to work. No amount of money is worth my child's physical and mental health to me. That's just how I see it. But my mom always said, if you know better, do better. So how do I sleep at night if I know my son's having issues with X, Y, and Z? For me, I can't. I don't feel like a good parent then. That's just me. You may not be like that, I don't know. But trying to get what I really want out of life for me and my son in this society has been so difficult. It's great because it pushes me, it narrows so much down. Like, that's the benefit. It counts out so much. Instead of having these, like, too many options to choose from, it narrows me down to, like, only certain things that will work. But that's the other part of it. It's none of that is what I wanted to do with my life. Like, it's not what I plan to do. It's probably what's good for me, though. It's probably what's good for him, though. So, fine, I'll do it. It's not like I can't have any passion in it. That's not the issue. It's just, people, they have their opinions. You just feel like you're going, you're going against the grain. You're an outlier. And sometimes that feels painful because you feel isolated. And we're meant to be connected. Everyone has, like, the need to belong. Most people, right? At least at some point in your life. I'm hungry right now. So yeah, that's been the hard part. How do I make money and be with my child most of the time? I know how, many ways how, but most of them, one, it's a risk. It's a lot more risk, right? Great risk comes great reward, but a lot more risk, and it takes a lot more time. That's been the issue. And then people outside of you, put up, at least it's been my situation, right? People outside of me putting up roadblocks or, just having their own opinions pulling on you and to trying to get you to do what they want you to do in their own way. Things that really, truly can really set you back. They really set me back. So if you're out there and you're like me and you want to you want to disconnect. That's how I want to disconnect. I want off this crazy train. That's what feels like a crazy train. That's the other thing is I don't want to send my school as much as, like, it's not even necessary. So I don't know if you've ever been homeschooled or you know about homeschooling or you've homeschooled yourself. It proves that, like, all this time kids spend at school is unnecessary. It's really setting them up for the working world. And at a point in time, it was needed, not necessarily exactly set up. But that time it's kind of over. It doesn't take 8 hours a day or more to teach them what they're learning in most cases, right? And they don't need as much social time as people think they need. A large percentage of people are bullied. A large percentage of people are mentally checking out. They're bored because they're forced to stay on pace with other students that are behind where they are. So often, people with diagnosed ADHD are really just gifted, especially boys. But you'll find if someone is stuck in an environment that is behind where they are intellectually and they feel like they're stuck there, you'll find those people will often check out and give up. And then they become what people think they are in the first place. They assume, like, oh, they have like ADHD or whatever. They're not as intellectually advanced and they're just bored. I'll continue this video later.